YouTube. It's Kevin here, Candy Banana Balls. How's everybody doing tonight? Just wanted to do a little ASF update. Tell you a few things. One is, I see a lot of controversy on when to wean your babies. There's no need to do that unless you have a ton of babies and you're worried about, some getting smothered out. And I'll tell you this, the ASFs are just amazing when it comes to taking care of large litters and multiple size babies. I've had them with over 50 or more, even 60, 70 different age babies all at one time, and the mothers get them all handled. The little babies like that versus ones that are close to being weaned or even of weaning age, and very little issues. Very rarely do you see where one gets starved out or anything like that. So your concerns are probably minimal when it comes to that. Now, with that said, you can wean when these guys open their eyes at about 14 or 15 days. When their eyes are fully open, you can successfully wean them. I have done it many times, hundreds and hundreds, and never lost one because of it. The only thing I will tell you or suggest is you need to provide more than just the watered bottle in their grow out tub or enclosure, wherever you're putting them. You also need to have a small shallow water dish, because they don't always know right away how to use the water bottle. If you provide them a shallow water dish, and I also like to provide them a small seed mix, some smaller food, although they will go and chew on a rodent block or whatever, you got to just make sure the food is available for them. If you have a top feeder and they can't reach it, obviously that's a problem. So definitely make sure there's food available. If you're not going with like a small seed mix or a smaller food mix, make sure there's rodent block or some type of food that it's available to them in the enclosure. If you do that, you can successfully wean them when their eyes are open without issue. Also, your next concern, you're going to say, well, are they going to grow as quickly? Are they going to grow as well if you pull them at that age? I have studied this many times. There's really zero, you don't see any different. If you leave part of the litter in with the parents and remove part of the litter and you watch them size-wise, you're not going to be able to tell a difference. If there is any difference at all, I would say that you're getting a little bit bigger by weaning them early, with them getting on solid food earlier. That's in my experience, and I've tested this many times, many different litters, just to see what results, and all the results are the same. If I was going to guess or tell you, I would say you do get maybe just a little bit better growth by weaning them at that age. The other thing that I feel that you get by pulling them at that age, if you're not using them strictly for feeders, if you are selling some as pets, I think that gives you a little better chance of bonding with them and or training them or making them more tame than normal. I think the longer they're in with their parents, the more habits they pick up from them, as far as being afraid of humans or having caution with humans. If you pulling them when their eyes are open the same day and spending time with them and working with them, I've had a lot better luck that way than waiting to 4 or 5 weeks pulling them and starting at that point. I think you're missing out on a couple valuable weeks of bonding and trust when they're at that age. They've just opened their eyes. You get a lot more trust. You get a lot further with them whenever you're dealing with them at 15, 16 day of age versus 30, 40 days of age. So that's another reason to pull them early. Now, there's no other reasons too, and if you have the space, if you're not in a hurry, if you don't have piles of babies in there that you're concerned about, no reason to pull them at all. If they're strictly feeders, you can let them in there. You honestly can let them in there for close to 3 months before you're really going to see any breeding action out of them. If you want to be extra safe, call it 14 weeks maybe. Pull them by then just to make sure. But yeah, I've set up several breeding colonies, and you really don't see these guys starting to breed. The males are a little quicker, but if you have the same age females with them, nothing's going to happen. You really don't see these guys actively start breeding until about the 3-month period, and then after that, then they start. So, if you're doing, I do a single grow out bin currently, and I leave them all in the same bin, males and females, and I've been either using them or selling them before I get to that 3-month spot. If you get to there, then you're going to want to separate your males and females, and or sell them off or feed them off by then, or set up new colonies if you're building more colonies from them, because at that point they're going to start breeding. You're going to start seeing some different behaviors, and you don't want all that going on with the whole big grow out bin. You want to kind of separate that and keep that away from what you got going on there. The reason I do that, a lot of people pull males and females, when they're weaned and separate them. I think you have stronger groups and stronger colonies building from something that everybody lives together. When all these guys are growing up together and they're all together throughout those early weeks, I think you have more bonding, you have less chances of fighting and issues in your colony down the road. When you start separating them, that's when they can now not accept certain members, and you can have problems. So remember that if you're building new colonies and you're going to be building them soon, keep them all together. It's not going to hurt anything, and you're going to have stronger and healthier and more colonies that work together better if they're all together throughout those early stages of life. They're used to each other, they're interacting with each other. Even if you're in an enclosure with 40 or 50 other ASFs, they might not be spending every day together, or a lot of time side by side, but they're crossing paths, they're in the same enclosure. They're going to be familiar with each other, and I think you have more success that way. Not that you can't do it the other way. I'm just giving you a few tips to give your better colonies that work together a lot better. I haven't used colonies with multiple males. Some people, once they get to a bigger colony, if they're doing like a 1.5 or a 1.6 and above, sometimes they'll add an extra male. I've not really seen any reason to do that and or positive results. I think when you got 2 males in there, now you have dominance issues, you have fighting issues. I think you're causing more problems in the colony than you're gaining. I have a couple 1.9 and 1.10 colonies, and that one male is taking care of all those females quite nicely. I'm not really missing out on any breeding or anything that I would consider slow at this time. So if you want a bigger colony, you can stick with 1 male and you'll be fine. Like I said, I have 3 colonies that are 1.9 or 1.10, and they're doing excellent. Pretty much every female is either pregnant or has just recently given birth. Other thing you got to remember with these ASFs is you don't really know what you're getting until they start. You may have females that consistently drop litters of 14, 16, but you may have a couple that are only dropping 6 or 8 pretty consistently, and that's a big difference. If you're working to feed a colony of snakes, and you say you need X amount of production. If you build a colony based on figuring every female for 12 or 14 babies a clip, and all of a sudden half of them are only doing 6 or 8, that can really throw you off. And for as long as it takes you to build the colony, get them breeding, and get them into a rhythm, it's a long process. If you now have to add another female or two, you could be 3-4 months out before you get the production you want. So always start, in my opinion, bigger, and then back your size down, and use what you need. So if you need to produce 50 babies a month, go for double that, or close to double that in theory, and then you can always just adjust it once you're ahead of the game. You can freeze some off if you get too far ahead. You can always sell some. There's always seems to be people looking for ASFs, or you could keep some around. I mean, they're never going to get too big for your adult ball pythons. So if you're feeding your ball pythons, throw an extra tub for your grow outs and keep them. You'll be better off if you have an extra 20, 30, 40 on stock versus trying to always keep your inventory up. So always go big when it comes to these ASFs, because there's just too many little problems that arise, and it takes so long to get to the breeding and production stage that you can get very easily frustrated if you have problems, if you lose members, or something happens and you have to start from scratch. It's very frustrating. At least if you are ahead of the curve and you have backup plans or backup breeders, then you'll be fine, and you'll be ahead of the game. So that's my suggestion. Thanks for tuning in. If you have any ASF questions, I'll do my best to answer. I have done extensive research on them, and I have a pretty good amount of experience with them. So if I can't answer it, I sure try to figure it out for you. They can be a little tricky. Once you got them dialed in, they're great. They're pretty self-sufficient. They don't smell anywhere as near as the fancy rats. You don't have to clean their tubs as much. They don't eat as much. They're a great feeder, but they can be a little tricky until you get them dialed in. So if you have any questions, need any help, feel free to ask. I'll do my best to help you. Thanks again, Kevin at Candy Banana Balls. Please like and subscribe. We do ASF videos, ball python videos, and just a few fancy rat videos. I have a small colony of them. Tips and tricks, different things you can do as far as raising and feeding them. So thanks again, and have a great evening.